You know that moment in a movie where everything stops and the camera zooms in on the main character's stunned face? That happened to me, except instead of a dramatic love confession or a fistfight, my sister-in-law walked into my wedding holding divorce papers. But here's the kicker: there was no marriage to divorce. Let me back up. I'm 28F and I married my husband Ryan 30M 2 weeks ago in what was supposed to be a small, peaceful, emotionally safe wedding surrounded by the people we actually love and who love us back. Keyword supposed to be. Because nothing about the hours leading up to our vows felt safe. Our families were never great with each other. My side close-knit, slightly chaotic but fiercely supportive. His side disconnected, cold, full of secrets and subtle digs. Especially from his sister Hannah, 32F. From the beginning, Hannah hated me. Not for anything I did, but simply because, in her words, I didn't know my place. I wasn't the submissive, overly accommodating type she expected in her brother's partner. And that pissed her off. When Ryan and I got engaged, we made a conscious choice. We weren't inviting people who didn't treat us with basic respect. That meant his aunt who once asked if I was the rebound from his ex-fiancé. That meant his cousin who kept calling me the loud one. And yes, that meant Hannah, who hadn't spoken to either of us in over a year, unless you count the time she emailed Ryan a BuzzFeed quiz titled, "Are you being manipulated?" So yeah, no invite. We told his parents. His mom cried, not because she disagreed, but because she hated being in the middle. His dad muttered something about family being sacred, which was rich coming from the man who forgot Ryan's birthday 3 years in a row. Fast forward to the wedding day. I'm in the dressing room surrounded by my best friends, already emotional because my grandmother had just gifted me the necklace she wore at her own wedding. My dress was perfect. The flowers were stunning. I was finally feeling like maybe this day would go smoothly. Then my maid of honor, Jenna, comes in, pale as the champagne in her hand. "You're not gonna believe this," she says. I laugh, assuming she's joking. "What? Did the cake fall over?" "I wish." She pulls out her phone and shows me a video that a guest had just posted to their Instagram story. The video pans across the entrance of the outdoor venue. In the background, laughter, music, petals blowing in the breeze. Then front and center Hannah. Wearing white. Holding a thick manila folder. And smirking like a Disney villain who finally got the last word. "She's here," Jenna says. "And she's telling everyone she's here to deliver a legal correction." I burst out laughing. I mean, what else could I do? The absurdity was so complete it felt like fiction. She looked like a deranged process server in a Hallmark movie. I didn't want drama. I really didn't. But I also didn't want her ruining the happiest day of my life. So I told Jenna, "Let her come. Let's see what she thinks she's got." 10 minutes later, just before the ceremony was about to begin, she approached me. Brazenly. In front of half the wedding party. "Hannah, I need to talk to Ryan. Alone." Me still calm. "He's busy. What do you need?" She lifted the folder like a sword. "This is a petition for annulment. I'm here to deliver it before he makes the biggest mistake of his life." Someone behind me gasped. Someone else dropped a glass. But me? I couldn't stop laughing. "Annulment of what?" I asked. She blinked. I went on. "You do realize we're not even married yet, right? That's kind of the whole point of today." Her face changed. The confidence drained. But only for a second. "You've manipulated him. You trapped him. I'm not letting him sign his life away. This marriage won't stand in court. I have proof that it's based on coercion." Coercion. She used the actual word coercion like she was a judge on a procedural drama. Behind me, my mother whispered, "Is she high?" Before I could answer, Ryan stepped out. He saw her. His face went stone cold. "Hannah," he said, "you need to leave." She exploded. "You're really doing this? For her? She's destroyed this family." He didn't even flinch. "There's nothing left to destroy." And then he took my hand and walked me past her. Just like that. The ceremony went ahead. The sun came out. I said my vows with tears in my eyes, not just from joy, but from the weight that had finally lifted off my chest. But that's not the end of the story. 3 days later, Hannah posted a long, dramatic Facebook status about how she tried to stop a fraudulent marriage and how her concerns were ignored. She called me a narcissistic social climber, and Ryan a victim. I didn't respond. But then, something unexpected happened. Ryan's cousin Leo messaged me privately. I barely knew him, moved overseas years ago. He wasn't invited, but he saw Hannah's post and said, "I know you probably don't care, but you should know Hannah did something similar before. With my ex." "Wait, what?" Leo explained. Years ago, when he was engaged to a woman named Madison, Hannah had inserted herself into their relationship too. She befriended Madison under the guise of being supportive, only to plant seeds of doubt. She claimed Leo had cheated, he hadn't, that his family would never accept her, they did, and that she deserved better. The engagement collapsed within a month. It hit me hard. This wasn't just about me. This was about control, and pattern, and ego. Ryan read the messages and all he said was, "She needs help, and I'm done waiting for her to want it." We blocked her. Fully. She hasn't spoken to us since. Her parents still make occasional quiet excuses. She's always been intense. She just misses having Ryan around. She's going through a lot, but we don't buy it anymore. Here's the truth. Some people aren't just dramatically destructive, and if you give them the stage, they'll turn your life into their theater. I'm glad we shut the curtain. But every now and then I remember the look on her face when I laughed. When she thought she was the hammer and realized she was the nail. And yeah, I laugh again. We spent our honeymoon in Greece. Sunlight, sea salt, silence. It was perfect. Almost. Because even though we blocked her, even though we didn't speak her name, Hannah lingered in the corners of conversations, in my husband's distant stares when he thought I wasn't watching. I wanted to believe we'd left her behind at the altar. But trauma doesn't care about timelines. One morning while I was sipping bitter coffee on the hotel balcony, Ryan came outside and sat beside me. He didn't say anything for a long time. Just watched the waves crash. Then he asked me, what if I'd believed her? I blinked. If I had seen that folder and panicked, he continued. If I had let doubt in for just a second, would you have still married me? It wasn't a question I expected, but I answered truthfully. No, I wouldn't have. He nodded. Slowly. I don't blame you. And that was it. No drama. No long speech. Just two people acknowledging how fragile trust can be. How lucky we were that ours survived. But not everyone was ready to move on. 2 weeks after we returned, Ryan's mother invited us over for coffee and clarity. Her words. We knew what that meant. An ambush. Still we went. Maybe out of guilt. Maybe out of obligation. Maybe because we were tired of running from the loose ends Hannah had left hanging. When we arrived, his parents were waiting quiet, tight-lipped. And then out of nowhere, his Aunt Margot appeared. We hadn't invited Margot to the wedding either. She was the one who once said I looked like I had daddy issues because I ordered whiskey at a family dinner. Subtlety was not her thing. She smiled as if we were old friends. So, she said, ready to put all this ugliness behind us? I stayed silent. Ryan didn't. Define this ugliness, he said. Margot's smile wavered. Oh, come on, Ryan. Family's family. You can't cut someone out just because they speak the truth. What truth? He shot back. That my wife is controlling. That our marriage is a fraud. His mother intervened then, gently placing a hand on his arm. Sweetheart, please. We all just want peace. No, I said. Calm but firm. You want comfort. And there's a difference. That shut the room up. I went on. Peace means resolution. Accountability. Truth. Comfort means pretending none of this ever happened. So you don't have to feel awkward at Thanksgiving. I thought Margot would explode. But she didn't. She laughed. And then she said something I'll never forget. You think Hannah's the problem. She's just the latest one. I stared at her. She waved her hand. This family has always functioned on illusion. Your husband is the first fool to break the script. That night, Ryan asked me if I thought his family was damaged beyond repair. I said yes. He didn't argue. The next few months were surprisingly quiet. We settled into married life. Repainted our apartment. Got a dog Milo. A rescue mutt with mismatched eyes and abandonment issues we understood all too well. Sometimes we'd hear from extended family members. An email here. A forwarded message there. Once, a voicemail from Hannah's ex-boyfriend saying he hoped we were well and Hannah's in therapy now. That was it. Until Christmas. It was supposed to be simple. We planned to spend it with my family, the way we'd agreed during engagement. But 2 days before we got a letter. An actual paper letter. No return address. Inside was a single photo. Of me. Taken from behind, clearly without my knowledge. I was walking Milo bundled in my coat, crossing the street near our apartment. Written across the back in neat, deliberate handwriting. Careful. Not all betrayals are loud. I stared at it for a long time, then showed Ryan. He didn't speak. Just picked up the phone and called Leo. Yes, that Leo. The cousin who'd messaged us before. Ryan had been keeping in touch with him since the wedding. Nothing major, just casual updates. But Leo had mentioned once that he had screenshots from his time with Hannah. Things he hadn't shared yet. We asked for them. What he sent made my skin crawl. Photos of messages Hannah bragging to Madison about knowing how to make people snap. One audio recording of her drunkenly telling a friend, "My brother always picks broken girls. All I have to do is show the cracks." Then one final message from Hannah to Leo, dated a month before our wedding. "She'll break. I just have to give her time. A woman like her doesn't last under pressure." I wasn't angry. Not exactly. I was done. We reported the letter to the police. There wasn't much they could do, no threat. No proof it was her, but it made me feel less powerless. We bought a camera doorbell. Moved Milo's walks to daytime. Installed a second lock. We didn't tell our families. What was the point? But something changed in Ryan that week. A hardness. A clarity. He started talking about moving. Not just across town. Out of state. "I don't want our kids if we have any growing up near that," he said. "I don't want my past bleeding into our future." And I knew what he meant. We found a job posting in Seattle, his field, great salary. I was freelance so I could move anywhere. We applied. He got it. We left quietly without fanfare. No goodbye dinners. No long letters. Just a moving truck, a new lease, and a box of memories we chose not to unpack. For a while we healed. But last month, a name popped up in my inbox. Madison. Leo's ex. The woman Hannah had sabotaged years ago. Her message was short. Direct. "I know we don't know each other. But I saw your wedding photo online. The way he looks at Johan never looked at me like that. Not even close. I just wanted to say I think you broke the pattern. And I hope you're doing okay." I cried reading it. Not because it hurt, but because it felt like freedom. Like someone else had finally seen the full picture and believed me. Because if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Abusers don't always scream. Sometimes they whisper. Sometimes they smile sweetly while passing you the poison. And sometimes, if you're lucky, you spot the bottle before you drink. Seattle gave us something no one in either of our families ever offered: space. We finally had room to think without echoes of guilt. Freedom without manipulation dressed up as concern. Ryan slept better. Milo barked less. I started painting again. But even peace has its own weight. One foggy morning, while I was rearranging some shelves in our new place, I found the photo again, the one Hannah sent. My back turned, the warning scribbled in ink. I tucked it away in a drawer, thinking I'd throw it out eventually. But I hadn't. Instead, I stared at it now, feeling a different kind of tension in my chest. Not fear. Not anger. Just curiosity. Why this? Why keep watching us when she'd already lost? Ryan came home that evening with takeout and a strange look on his face. He didn't kiss me hello. Just set down the food and said, "My dad called." My stomach flipped. Why? "He's in town. Visiting Margot. He wants to meet. Alone." Did he say why? No. But he sounded different. Different how? Neither of us could say. But 2 days later Ryan went. I didn't ask to come. I knew whatever this was, it had to come through him first. He came back looking pale and rattled. He dropped his keys, sat down, and said nothing for a full minute. Then, "My dad knew." Knew what? About Hannah. About the letter. The stalking. All of it. My pulse started racing. He admitted that? Ryan nodded. And more. He told me they met in a public park. No hugs. No greetings. Just straight to the point. Dad, Ryan asked him, have you talked to Hannah? His dad didn't answer the question. Instead, he took out a folded piece of paper from his coat. She sent this to your mother. Said it was a final warning. Ryan unfolded the letter. It was handwritten, barely legible in places, spiraling into loops and scratched out words. But one sentence stood out, underlined 3 times. He won't know what hit him until it's too late. I already warned her. Beneath that, a list of dates and times, places we'd been, stores we shopped at, even a line about our Wi-Fi password, which we changed recently. It was surveillance, not just obsession. It was dangerous. His dad said they hadn't known what to do, that they'd considered calling the police but were afraid of escalating things. That Hannah had a history of mental health issues diagnosed but untreated. That she'd refused medication since college. That every time they tried to intervene, she shut them out harder. But why not tell us? Ryan asked. His father had no answer. Only shame. Then came the twist. His dad told Ryan something we never expected. Hannah was engaged once. We blinked when Ryan said this. I'd never heard anything about that. Not from her. Not from anyone. Engaged. I asked. To who? To a girl named Elise. Back in college. Ryan explained it had been secret. Hidden from most of the family. Their parents disapproved. Hannah was 21. Elise was older. A professor's assistant. They were afraid it would derail her future. So they told her to end it. She refused. So they forced it. They threatened to cut her off. Paid Elise to leave. And she did. And Hannah broke. Not in a loud screaming way. In a silent, internal one. She stopped talking about relationships altogether. Spent more time online. Picked fights over small things. Projected her pain outward onto anyone Ryan got close to. Especially women. Especially women who weren't afraid to love loudly. Do you think she still resents me for that? Ryan had asked his dad. The man had looked at his son and said the words that changed everything. I think she resents herself. But punishing you is easier. When Ryan finished telling me all of this, I didn't feel vindicated. I felt sick. Because now I didn't just see Hannah as toxic, I saw her as tragic. Still dangerous. Still wrong. Still someone we needed distance from. But not just the villain anymore. A product of silence. Of family shame. Of parents who chose appearance over help. I don't forgive her, I said. Ryan nodded. Neither do I. But now I understand. We thought that would be the end of it. Until the next day when a package showed up at our door. No return address. Inside a USB stick. Taped to a single note. From one former prisoner to another. Elise. I swear my blood went cold just reading the name. We hesitated to open it. We almost threw it away. But curiosity is a drug. Ryan plugged it into his laptop. A single file. A video recording. It was grainy like a webcam from an old computer. But the woman on screen was clear. Elise. Early 30s now. Short brown hair. Kind eyes. Nervous. Hi, she said. If you're watching this, I guess Hannah crossed another line. She went on to explain that she and Hannah had loved each other deeply, passionately, intensely. But Hannah's moods were wild. Beautiful one day, cruel the next. She'd accuse Elise of cheating if she took too long to respond to a text. Then cry for hours and beg her to stay. I didn't leave because I didn't love her, Elise said. I left because she made me feel like I was nothing unless I was only hers. Then Elise said something that broke me. She's not evil. But she's unwell. And the people around her keep letting that become someone else's burden. She ended by apologizing for her silence. For the role she played in enabling the dysfunction. For letting the family bury the truth. Then the screen went black. Ryan didn't cry. But I did. Not for Hannah. Not even for Elise. But for the version of us that never got this truth sooner. Because we could have saved ourselves so much pain. We decided to keep the video. Not for revenge. But as record. As proof. Because one day when we have kids, and they ask why we never went to certain family events, why they didn't know their aunt, we want to tell them the truth. Not a sanitized version. Not a lie of omission. The truth. And maybe, just maybe, that's how the cycle finally ends. 2 months passed. Seattle grew colder. Rainier disappeared behind fog most days, but our apartment was warm, peaceful. I found myself exhaling in ways I hadn't known I was holding in for years. We started building new rituals. Coffee on Sundays. Walks through the market. Ryan read books again, actual books. I painted a full series and submitted it to a gallery. Milo had a spot by the window and a toy box he guarded like treasure. Life was calm. Until the phone rang. It was Ryan's mom. We hadn't heard from her since the move, only occasional forwarded emails from nosy relatives. She left a voicemail. "Ryan, it's your mother. I know you probably won't pick up. But it's Hannah. She's in the hospital. It's not serious, but she's not well. I'm calling because she asked for you." He didn't listen to the whole thing the first time. He just stared at me and whispered, "Why now?" We talked that night. Long and slow. We didn't argue, just sat with every possible question. Was it a trick? Was it a trap? Or was she truly reaching out for help? He didn't decide right away. In fact, it took him 3 days to call back. He asked to speak to a nurse, not his mother. Confirmed she'd been admitted. Confirmed it was a psychiatric hold, not a physical injury. Then he asked the only question that mattered. Did she ask for me by name? The nurse paused, then answered, "Yes. And she said to tell you she's tired of the story she's been telling." That broke him. He sat on the edge of our bed, his shoulders shaking in silence. I wrapped my arms around him and said, "You don't owe her anything, but you're allowed to want closure." He nodded, but didn't speak. The next day he went. I didn't. I stayed home and paced the kitchen for 2 hours. Then sat on the couch holding Milo like a talisman. When he returned, he looked exhausted but lighter somehow. "She didn't blame me," he said. "Not once." I blinked. What did she say? She told the truth. About everything. About Elise. About Leo. About you. She admitted she wanted to ruin the wedding. That she thought if she could destroy the moment, she could keep me from choosing someone over her. He paused. She said she hated how happy I looked. That it reminded her of everything she'd lost. I swallowed hard. Did she apologize? He nodded. She cried. But not performatively. Not for pity. She said she didn't expect forgiveness. She just didn't want to lie to herself anymore. I didn't ask how he felt. I didn't need to. Because in his voice, in his face, I heard something I hadn't in months. Peace. That night we talked like we used to. About the future. About maybe buying a house. Maybe trying for a baby in a year or two. About painting the guest room yellow just in case. And I said something that surprised even me. If she stays in treatment, I told him, and stays away from manipulation, maybe one day we invite her to dinner. Ryan looked at me with cautious hope. You mean that? I mean that if healing is real, I want to believe in it too. But I also said this. I'm not doing it for her. I'm doing it for us. Because if she's no longer a danger, I don't want to carry her ghost. He understood. And that was enough. We didn't rush anything. No big reunion. No Facebook announcements. Just small steps. She sent a card 6 weeks later. No dramatic apology. Just a handwritten message. I'm grateful for the mirror you held up to my life. I didn't like what I saw, but I needed to see it. Thank you for surviving me. I cried when I read it. Because sometimes survival is the only victory you get. And that's okay. Today, a year after our wedding, I stand in our kitchen with the sunlight pouring in. Milo curled at my feet, and a baby registry open on my phone. Ryan's out getting paint samples. The yellow we picked is too bright. Too cheerful. I want something softer. More hopeful. Because that's what this story became in the end. Not a tragedy, but a transformation. People ask me sometimes, why didn't we sue her? Press charges? Go no contact forever? The truth is, we almost did. But when someone who's spent years burning bridges finally turns to you and says, I'm tired of fire, there's power in offering water. Not because they deserve it, but because you do. Because holding on to rage feels like control, but letting go is where the real power lives. Do I trust her? No. But I trust me now. I trust us. And that's more than I ever thought I'd say at the beginning of this story. The girl who tried to cancel our wedding with forged divorce papers? She's no longer the villain in my story. She's just someone learning to be her own protagonist. And me? I'm still here. Still laughing. But not out of bitterness anymore. Out of grace. Because some stories end in courtrooms. Ours ended at a kitchen table with coffee and quiet and finally, truth.